Hi everybody, welcome back to the Crime Lab. Today I'm going to be talking about Andrea Yates and her criminal case. Just a very quick viewer discretion. I will be talking about the murder of children, postpartum depression, and that sort of thing. So these are very heavy topics. And if you are uncomfortable with that, if you don't want to hear about that sort of stuff right now, feel free to move on to a different video. Like I said, this is a very heavy topic for a lot of people, so I get it. But Andrea Yates is a woman best known for having killed her 5 children by drowning in the bathtub at their home, at her and her husband's home. At any given point before this happened, she exhibited many symptoms of severe postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, and symptoms of schizophrenia. So very severe mental illnesses that are not uncommon for people to be dealing with, especially pregnant women after they give birth or after they've been pregnant. It is not uncommon for them to deal with some level of depression, psychosis, that sort of thing. I do want to tell people that, seeking help for that is a totally valid thing to do. And if you feel that that's something that you need, do not feel bad about having to seek support and help for something like that. So she was born Andrea Paya Kennedy. She was born in Houston. She's the youngest of 5 children. That's just a very quick thing. So she graduated from Milby High School in 1982 and was valedictorian, captain of the swim team, and an officer in her school's National Honor Society. She went to complete a 2-year pre-nursing course program at the University of Houston, and then graduated from the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston to become a registered nurse, and worked from 1986 to 1994 as an RN at the University of Texas Anderson Cancer Center. She met Russell Yates, who also went by Rusty, who was a NASA engineer, and they soon moved in together and got married in 1993. So shortly before she left her position at the University of Texas Cancer Center. And they announced both Andrea and Rusty announced that they were going to have as many babies as nature would allow prior to buying their 4-bedroom house in Friendswood, Texas. Their first son, Noah, was born in 1994. And Andrea soon accepted a position in Florida, causing them to need to move to Seminole, Florida. And by the time of their 3rd child's birth, they had moved back to Houston, purchased a motorhome. And during this time, she was dealing with some postpartum depression and things like that. After the birth of their 4th child, though, the depression resurfaced. And then in June 1999, Rusty felt her shaking and chewing her fingers. And then the next day, she attempted suicide by overdosing on pills. It is theorized that this was part of one of the results of the depression and psychosis that she was experiencing. She was hospitalized at the time and prescribed antidepressants to help kind of balance her out a little bit more. And then she was hospitalized again not terribly long after, for another attempt and prescribed more medication, such as Haldol, which is an antipsychotic, and that seemed to stabilize her, which if people in, say, like the ER, if they're having like what doctors may deem as like a psychotic episode, or they're just not in control of themselves psychologically for whatever reason, it's not uncommon to, from what I understand, to do a very small dose of Haldol to help kind of bring them back down, bring them back kind of to evenness, in a matter of speaking. So in July of 1999, she had a nervous breakdown and another 2 attempts. And at that point, she was diagnosed officially with postpartum psychosis. So she's of course dealing with a lot at this point. She has made 4 attempts, and has already been prescribed antidepressants and other medication to help even out her mood. And after seeing a psychiatrist, her and Rusty were urged not to have any more children, because at that point she'd already been dealing with a couple rounds of postpartum depression, had been diagnosed with postpartum psychosis, and psychiatrists just believed that if they had any more children, that would just continue the cycle of her having issues. But they soon, about 7 weeks after she was discharged, she conceived their 5th child. And at that point, Andrea had stopped taking the Haldol. And about 9 months later, they had their 5th daughter, Mary, their 5th child. And then she seemed to be doing okay. So this would have been 2000, roughly. She seemed to be coping pretty well after their 5th child was born, Mary. But that was until the death of Yates's father in March of 2001. At that point, she completely stopped her medication and actually stopped feeding Mary. And she became incapacitated and required immediate hospitalization. And in May of 2001, so this is about 2 months after her father's death, she degenerated to a near catatonic state. So she really, there's no evidence that she was aware of what was going on. She wasn't responding to people in a quote unquote normal fashion. She wasn't really aware of what was going on. So in 2002, she was convicted of capital murder, but the jury refused to give her the death penalty. So that meant life in prison without the possibility of parole until 40 years. So possibility of parole after 40 years. This, of course, was after she had essentially had a psychotic break, and killed her 5 children by drowning them in the bathtub. There were many points where the children didn't really understand what was going on. She drowned the children kind of one by one. She would bring them into the bathroom and drown them. She would somehow incapacitate them and then would hold them under the water. And then she was found, and her children were found deceased. And so she was arrested and convicted. So it was, the original sentence was overturned on an appeal based on false testimony by one of the supposed expert psychiatric witnesses. And then during the retrial was found not guilty due to insanity. So because of her mental state at the time, she could not be found guilty because she was not psychologically aware of what she was doing, essentially. She was committed to a high security North Texas State Hospital. And then psychiatrists for both prosecution and defense agreed that Yates was extremely mentally ill. The state of Texas asserted that she was aware enough to judge her actions right or wrong, and further implication of spousal revenge as motivation for her killing. So revenge for, because at this point, her and Rusty's marriage had been essentially deteriorating, and he wanted custody of their kids because he didn't feel that she was in the right frame of mind to continue to take care of them. So essentially spousal revenge. And then according to a testimony in 2006, Rusty was told not to leave her unattended, but he started leaving her alone for weeks at a time. Started leaving her alone in the weeks leading up to the drowning. And one thing that he said was, all depressed people need a swift kick in the pants to get them motivated. He didn't really believe that he didn't seem to believe that depression was really something that needed treatment of any sort. And then in 2004, Rusty filed for divorce from Andrea, stating that they hadn't lived together since the murders. And then it was granted in 2005. And then he started dating his now second wife. So he is remarried. As far as I'm aware, she is still incarcerated, not necessarily incarcerated, but is in a psychiatric hospital, getting help for the psychological issues that she has been dealing with for a while. I did go through that very quickly. I kind of briefed over a few things because I know some stuff is very heavy, such as, what actually happened when she was doing it. I decided that was not something that people really needed to hear in my videos. They didn't need to hear the dirty details, especially because it is something that involves children, a mother killing her children. That's hard for anybody to hear. That's hard for anybody to talk about. And this was more of a general overview of what happened with her case. This is not me going into super scathing detail about the entirety of the case. This is more of an overview of, this is what happened, unfortunately, and this is what mental illness can do to somebody, especially if not treated correctly. This is a very unfortunate circumstance, and as I said before, if you are dealing with mental illness, especially, whatever mental illness, whether it be postpartum mental illness, just everyday mental illness. I don't want to say just everyday mental illness, but I hope you guys understand what I'm talking about. Whether it be depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, anything like that. Every mental illness, I do think, deserves treatment. I know and am friends with many people that have dealt with it. They have been fortunate enough to have received some sort of treatment, and they are working through a lot of their stuff. So I do think that mental illness is something that needs to be treated appropriately, and I do think people should really try and understand it more, so then they can help the people around them that are dealing with it. But if anybody has any questions, concerns, if you have anything that you'd like me to cover in a future video, feel free to leave that in the comments. And if you guys, if you would like, subscribe, comment, like this video. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great rest of your day.